Mr. Benish, I think you testified, came to Mesquite to attend some Virgin Valley Water District Board meetings, correct?
Correct.
Can you tell me, did he come to some, all, obviously not all, but some or most of the meetings while he was
I would only say some.
I'm sorry?
I would only say some, not most, no.
And did he typically come to the Virgin Valley Water District's offices on multiple occasions or on occasions during a month when there wasn't a board meeting going on?
He may have stopped in if he was, I know that he represented Wolf Creek, and he may have stopped in if he had in a meeting with them and stop and say hi.
Was that a frequent occasion where he would show up other than for board meetings, or
No,
infrequent?
Infrequent.
And it'd be fair to say that you never interacted with George Benish in a personal setting outside of the office. Is that a fair statement?
Well, actually I did.
On how many occasions?
Maybe, he'd come down when we had a board meeting. He might take us girls to lunch. Or, I did go, he took my husband and I to lunch one time in Reno. My oldest son, when he was in school up there. And we went up to visit him, and George took us to lunch.
On any of those occasions that you're recalling now, was Mr. Winters also present?
No, he was not.
So even on a social basis, you never had the opportunity to observe Mr. Benish and Mr. Winters' social interaction together outside of the office. Is that a fair statement?
Well, I did one time, but many years ago, before Michael Johnson worked at the office, Mike and I flew up, Mike Winters and I flew up to the Division of Water Resources, and we're going through our water rights. And on that occasion, George picked us up from the airport and took us to lunch that day. That's the only time I remember that we were together, you know. So, well, socially it was work related also, but that we were together.
And was it a frequent or an infrequent occasion? On those infrequent occasions when Mr. Benish showed up to the offices of the Virgin Valley Water District other than for board meetings, do you have any specific recollections as to meetings that he had with Mr. Winters?
I can't recall, you know.
So it's fair to say, Ms. Johnson, that in terms of your ability to overhear and or witness the relationship between Mr. Winters and Mr. Benish, you only had very rare occasions where you were able to personally be with the two of them at the same time while they were discussing business. Isn't that correct?
Correct.
And you don't recall any telephone conversations that you overheard between the two of them?
Not specifically, no.
So when you expressed the opinion that you felt that George Benish was closer to Mike Winters, that opinion is based on a very small universe of times where you actually saw them interact. Isn't that a fair statement?
Yes.
I may have a moment, Your Honor. Sure. I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Okay, Mr. Bennett, anything further?
Yeah. And Judge, I think we may have admitted some of those exhibits into evidence, but if I failed to, we'd offer exhibits S, N, and T into.
All right, S is already admitted. What's the next one?
N.
Okay, any objection to NN?
Mr. Gentile's already expressed his objections and you were overruled him, Your Honor, and admitted NN?
And again, to make it clear, it's only as to one aspect of NN, it's not the documents.
So NN's in. Yeah, one of the problems with this is that, remember, I didn't get an extra copy of the exhibit, so I'm working off the original book. All right, so NN's in. Go ahead.
And Exhibit T.
T. Just T. All right, any objection to T?
No objection.
All right, T's in. Let me get these T's so we get more. So I confuse that again. Okay.
Ms. Johnson, you've talked about these telephone conversations between Mike Winters and George Benish. How often do those occur?
Daily.
You were asked some questions about public records requests. Are there public records requests that come in from time to time that deal with a very straightforward issue? Let me ask you it this way. You mentioned that that if someone requested the billing statements, you would ask legal counsel about that. Are there public records requests that come in that you wouldn't ask legal counsel about?
I think I forward everyone to you so you're aware.
If someone just requested a basic agreement from the water district, would you forward that to us?
I would probably forward you the request and then tell you that, you know, I've got it ready for them.
So would it be your experience that I wouldn't necessarily object if it was just requesting a standard public document such as an agreement
Correct.
that's been approved at a water district public meeting?
Correct.
Okay. So you would, is it safe to say you would only consult with us to get some kind of approval if it dealt with a you thought might be a legal issue?
Objection, leading and
Well, it has to do with her pattern and practice of dealing with public information requests, and she's the one that deals with them, so she can answer that.
Every public request that comes in, I usually forward to you. And I will put in my email that I don't see any problem with this. I will have this ready for them unless you tell me otherwise or something. But if it's just an agreement or something that I know are policies or something that's like that, then I can give that to them. But every request I do forward to you so you're aware of
Okay.
what's going on.
Okay. I know that you couldn't overhear the discussions specifically that George Benish and Mike Winters were having, but you did say that they were talking about district business. Tell me why you said that. How did you know they were talking about district business?
Well, sometimes I could hear, you know, Mike would say, "Hi, George. Yeah, at the board meeting last night." I just kind of tune it off, though. I don't sit there and listen to the entire conversation, you know, or, yeah, I received that agreement and, you know, whatever they were talking about, you know, I could hear maybe the first couple lines or something, and it might have been personal. Yeah, we're doing great, and then I just kind of tune it out.
Okay. But there were enough times that you heard at least bits and pieces that you knew they were talking about district business the majority of the time? Would that be?
Yes, correct.
You were asked a little bit about how many times you've had an opportunity to observe Mike Winters and George Benish, I think outside of like a public meeting or outside of a specific district situation. But you did say, when I was asking you questions, you did indicate an opinion that based on your observations you felt that Mike Winters and George Benish had a close relationship. You specifically also said that you felt that George Benish's loyalties were, from your observation, more to his loyalties were more to Mike Winters as opposed to the water district or the board. Do you stand by that statement?
Yes.
Okay, can you explain, and I know that this is not easy, but can you explain why you said that?
Well, for one, when he did their employment contracts, he asked Mike what he wanted in his contract. You know, what would you want in here? Instead of what would be best for the district. Or what an agreement, what would you want in this agreement? you know, that specifically. That, I don't know which agreement or anything, but I've heard him say that before.
When you say what would you want in this agreement, are you drawing a distinction between possibly what Mike Winters may have wanted versus what the water district may have wanted, or what would have been in the water district's best interest?
It could have been, yes.
Based on observations and dealings that you had, is that, do you believe that was the case?
Yes.
Just one moment, Your Honor. Your Honor, that's all the questions we have for Ms. Johnson at this time.
Mr. Zarnowski.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
All right, Ms. Johnson, thank you so much for your testimony. Your